the last frontier. We've spent billions of dollars and decades of research trying to map the surface of Mars. We've sent probes into the vacuum of space to photograph distant rocks. Yet right here on our own planet, there's a massive gap in our knowledge. Over 70% of Earth is covered by water, but if you look at a map of the ocean floor, most of it is just a low-resolution guess. For a long time, we simply didn't have the tech to see what was happening down there. The deeper you go, the more the world tries to kill you. It's a realm of bone-chilling cold and a physical pressure so intense that it would crumple a nuclear submarine like a soda can. Sunlight, the very thing that fuels almost all life we know, completely vanishes. But here's the thing, the darkness isn't empty. When we finally started dropping cameras and submersibles into the trenches, we didn't find a desert, we found giants. Creatures that have evolved to thrive in a world that feels like another planet entirely. Today, we're heading into the deep to meet the massive, strange, and sometimes haunting residents of the abyss. The vertical journey. Before we find the monsters, we have to understand the descent. Think of the ocean like a skyscraper, but most of the action happens in the basement. The top layer, the sunlight zone, is where we spend our vacations. It's the first 200 meters where the sun still hits. This is where the coral reefs are, where the colorful fish live, and where photosynthesis keeps everything moving. But as you pass that 200-meter mark, the light starts to choke out. You enter the twilight zone. It's a dim, ghostly blue world. This is where biology gets weird. Every single night, the largest migration on Earth happens here. Billions of tiny organisms swim up to the surface to eat under the cover of darkness, then sink back down before the sun rises. It's a massive vertical pulse of life that happens every 24 hours. Once you hit 1,000 meters, you're in the midnight zone. From here to the bottom, it is pitch black, and the temperature hovers just above freezing level. The pressure is already equivalent to having an elephant stand on your thumb. And yet, this is where the real giants start to appear. The living constellation, the giant Siphon 04. One of the most mind-bending things we've ever filmed in the deep isn't technically a single animal. It's the giant Siphon 04. When a submersible's lights hit this thing, it looks like a glowing white rope spiraling through the water. Some have been measured at over 40 meters long. That's longer than a blue whale. But if you look closer, it's actually a colony of thousands of individual organisms called zooids. They're all physically connected, but they have specialized jobs. Some handle the steering, some handle the eating, and some are just there to sting. They function so perfectly together that the whole colony moves as one giant predatory ribbon. It drifts through the blackness, trailing invisible venomous curtains to snag anything that bumps into it. It's a living trap that can stretch across half a football field, waiting for a meal that might only come once a week. The ghost in the machine, the phantom jellyfish. If the siphonophore is a trap, the phantom jellyfish is more haunting. We've known about them for over a century, but we've only actually seen them a handful of times. Instead of the typical clear umbrella-shaped jelly you see at the beach, the phantom is a deep, velvety red-black. Its bell can be a meter wide, but the real show is the arms. It doesn't have thin, stinging tentacles. It has 4 massive, fabric-like arms that can trail 10 meters behind it. They look like long, flowing scarves drifting in the current. Instead of stinging its prey to death, it uses those heavy arms to wrap around and ensnare fish or smaller jellies. Watching one move through the beam of a remotely operated vehicle is like watching a ghost glide through a haunted house. It's massive, silent, and incredibly rare. The heavyweight champion, the colossal squid. When we talk about deep-sea giants, we have to talk about the colossal squid. This isn't the giant squid you've seen in old sketches, it's its heavier, meaner cousin. The colossal squid can weigh up to 500 kilograms. It lives in the freezing waters around Antarctica, thousands of feet down. While the giant squid has suckers with teeth, the colossal squid has swiveling razor-sharp hooks on its arms.
We know they get into absolute wars with sperm whales. We found whales covered in deep circular scars from these hooks. Imagine a battle taking place 2 miles under the surface, in total darkness, between a multi-ton mammal and a half-ton squid with literal switchblades for hands. To see in that darkness, the squid has the largest eyes of any living creature, roughly the size of a soccer ball. They're designed to pick up the tiniest glimmer of bioluminescence, giving the squid a radar view of anything moving in the black. The scavenger of the seabed, the giant isopod. Down on the actual seafloor in the abyss, food is the biggest challenge. There are no plants, no sunlight. Most of the energy comes from marine snow, which is basically bits of dead fish, poop, and organic matter dropping down from above. This is where the giant isopod thrives. If you've ever seen a pill bug or a roly-poly in your garden, this is exactly that, but the size of a small dog. They grow up to 20 inches long and are covered in a thick armored shell. They are the ultimate scavengers. They crawl along the silt, waiting for a whale fall, a moment where a dead whale sinks to the bottom. When that happens, it's a jackpot. Thousands of these isopods will swarm the carcass, gorging themselves until they can barely move. Because food is so rare, they've evolved a metabolism that is almost at a standstill. One isopod in a lab went 5 years without eating a single bite. They are built for the long game. The alien forests, giant tube worms. Perhaps the most alien place in the deep ocean is around hydrothermal vents. These are essentially underwater volcanoes where superheated toxic water spews out of the Earth's crust. The water is hot enough to melt lead and filled with chemicals that should be lethal to any living thing. But surrounding these vents are forests of giant tube worms. They can grow over 2 meters tall, encased in white protective tubes with bright red plumes sticking out the top. What's wild is that these worms have no mouth and no digestive tract. They don't eat in the traditional sense. Instead, they have a massive organ filled with billions of bacteria. The bacteria take the toxic chemicals from the vent and turn them into food for the worm. It's a completely different way of living, an ecosystem that doesn't need the sun at all. If life exists on the moons of Jupiter or Saturn, it probably looks a lot like this. Why this matters. It's easy to look at these creatures and think they're just weird monsters in a place we'll never visit. But the deep ocean is the engine of our planet. It regulates the temperature of the globe and stores more carbon than all the forests on land combined. Every time we send a new camera down, we realize how much we've underestimated the complexity of the abyss. We're finding Dumbo octopuses that flap their ears to fly through the water, and snailfish that live 5 miles down, where the pressure should be impossible to survive. The more we look, the more we realize that we are the outsiders. We live on the thin, dry crust of a water world, and the real majority of life on Earth is down there, thriving in the dark, silent, and crushing deep. The deep ocean is one of the last places where you can still be a true explorer. Every year, we find a new species that completely changes what we thought was possible. It's a reminder that no matter how much we think we've conquered the world, nature still has plenty of secrets hidden in the basement. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far, you're clearly as obsessed with the deep as we are. If you enjoyed the journey, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep making these deep discoveries into the unknown. What's the one creature you'd be most terrified to see out of a submarine window? Let us know in the comments. We'll see you in the next one.